There are moments in a man's life when he feels the weight of generations resting on his shoulders. You may think your financial struggles are your own private burden, but they are not. You carry the hopes, failures, and silent prayers of those who came before you, and whether you know it or not, you were chosen to break what defeated them. You feel the pressure more heavily than others. You worry over every bill, every responsibility, every unknown future. You believe you are simply stressed, simply trying to survive. But there is a deeper truth beneath your struggle. The burden you feel is not random. It is assignment. Look at your family line. Look at the poverty patterns, the missed opportunities, the lack of guidance, the fear around money, the silence around ambition. These patterns did not begin with you. They have been passed down like invisible chains, and now those chains have reached you, because you are the one strong enough to break them. Before I explain how, reflect on this question. Why does the weight always fall on the strongest back? Why does the responsibility always find the one who is tired yet refuses to quit? Because destiny never selects the weakest vessel. It selects the one with the inner fire to act, while everyone else hesitates. Your family sees something in you they do not see in themselves. They see the one who dreams bigger, who tries harder, who refuses to settle. Even if they never say it, they expect you to succeed. They expect you to rise. They expect you to carry what they could not. Their silence is not ignorance, it is dependence. But imagine for a moment the cost of failing to rise. Imagine your children inheriting the same fears you wrestle with now. Imagine your siblings repeating the same financial mistakes. Imagine the next generation watching you live smaller than the greatness burning inside you. That is the nightmare path if you drift one more year. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine what happens if you rise. Imagine the day your family breathes easier because of your courage. Imagine a household where money is no longer a source of fear but a tool for freedom. Imagine your children seeing abundance instead of anxiety. Imagine the pride in their eyes when they say, "He changed everything." You must understand something. God does not choose a man at random. He chooses the man with a mind capable of being trained. He chooses the man who can develop definiteness of purpose. He chooses the man who can endure pressure without breaking. He chooses the one whose desire refuses to die. You are that man. The struggles you face are not punishments. They are preparation. The financial pressure you feel today is not a sign of failure. It is the refining fire that will produce the leader your family has been waiting for. Pressure does not appear to destroy a chosen man. It appears to shape him. For years you have dismissed your visions as fantasies. You have felt guilty for wanting more. You have feared that success might distance you from your loved ones. But let me reveal what took many years to understand. Your rise is not a betrayal of your family. It is the salvation of your family. Look at the past clearly. Think of your parents, your grandparents, your lineage. Who taught them how money works? Who showed them the laws of wealth? Who guided them toward definiteness, purpose, and organized planning? No one. They did the best they could with the knowledge they had, but the knowledge was incomplete. Now consider this. You are the first to awaken, the first to study, the first to question, the first to break the silence around money, the first to dream beyond survival. These are not accidents. These are signs of selection. You may say, "But I am overwhelmed. I am struggling myself. How can I save anyone?" And I answer with the truth. Every man chosen to break a generational curse begins in weakness, confusion, and fear. The strength arrives after the decision. The resources arrive after the commitment. The clarity arrives after the surrender to purpose. A man is not lifted before he accepts the calling. He is lifted because he accepted it. You must also understand how powerfully your life will change once you step into this identity. Once you say, "It ends with me," the world begins to reorganize around you. Opportunities that once hid themselves now move toward you. People who doubted you now respect you. Even your enemies become instruments of your rise. You will begin to speak differently, walk differently, make decisions with new conviction. Because a man who knows he is chosen does not hesitate. He commands, but do not mistake this for arrogance. This is responsibility. True leadership requires humility. The chosen man is not the loudest. He is the most disciplined. not the one who boasts, but the one who obeys the law of purpose with unwavering consistency. Now consider the timeline of your family, from past to present to future. Past, generations trapped in scarcity, fear, and limited knowledge. Present, you, the convergence point of desire, pressure, and awakening. Future, those who will never know the curses you carried because you chose to break them. The past shaped you, the future depends on you, and the present is calling you. You may believe you are unworthy, but worthiness is not the requirement. Willingness is. You may believe you are not ready, but readiness is not granted. It is built through discipline. You may believe your burdens disqualify you, but your burdens are the very proof of your calling. God will not choose a man for a light assignment. He chooses him for the assignment that changes the trajectory of an entire bloodline, and that is who you are. You will be the one who teaches your family the laws they were never taught. You will be the one who ends the cycle of fear around money. You will be the one who transforms scarcity into abundance. You will be the one who changes the destiny of those who come after you. Listen carefully. This is the most important sentence of this entire opening. You were not chosen because you are the strongest. You were chosen because you are the first one willing to listen. What comes next in this message will show you exactly how to rise, how to build, how to become the financial leader your family has prayed for, and how to carry this calling with conviction and dignity. Prepare your mind, steady your spirit. You were chosen to save them, and this is where the transformation begins. Part 1, the burden of divine selection. I have learned through long years of study that the heaviest weight a man carries is not the weight placed upon his back by the world, but the weight placed upon his spirit by destiny. When a man feels a burden others do not feel, it is never accident. It is the unmistakable sign that life has chosen him for a task greater than the comforts of ordinary men. And though he may tremble beneath it, he is never given less strength than the weight requires. A man often mistakes his suffering for punishment, when in truth it is preparation. No sculptor shapes marble gently, and no destiny shapes a man without fire. The struggle you bear is not because you are forsaken, but because you are needed. It is the mark of selection, the quiet whisper of the ages, declaring that your life shall rewrite the fortune of those who came before you. Your ancestors stop with you, not because you are weak, but because you are the first strong enough to listen. I have witnessed many men crushed beneath poverty who believed they were cursed by some unseen force. Yet the only curse they carried was ignorance handed down without guidance. Poverty is not a chain forged by evil. It is simply a path where knowledge never walked. And when knowledge enters, poverty must retreat, for it has no power where understanding lives. That is why the burden rests on you. You are the first to seek truth, and truth always chooses the seeker. Consider Abraham Lincoln, born in hardship so severe that despair could have claimed any lesser soul. Yet the adversity that threatened to break him became his training. The loneliness, the failure, the repeated blows of misfortune did not curse him, they carved him. They carved a depth of character that made him fit to carry a nation. His early pain was not punishment, it was preparation for immortal duty. And so it is with you. Think of Andrew Carnegie, who came from a poor Scottish household where opportunity was a stranger. His childhood did not contain wealth, privilege, or guidance. His schooling was brief, his family weak, his prospects thin. Yet poverty did not bind him. It instructed him. It taught him economy, discipline, endurance, and ambition forged in fire. The very struggle he thought was his downfall became the mother of his fortune. His burden was the badge of the chosen. Remember Henry Ford, ridiculed when he pursued ideas the world mocked as foolish. The laughter of others did not break him. It hardened the steel of his certainty. When a man endures mockery for holding a vision larger than those around him, it is the mark of divine favor. Destiny protects the man whose purpose it selects. And in time, the world that jeered at Ford bent its knee to his courage. You stand in the company of these men, though your name may not yet be known. The burden you feel is not the weight of failure, it is the weight of calling. A man who carries the future of his family upon his shoulders feels pressure the idle will never understand. You are not overwhelmed because you are weak. You are overwhelmed because the assignment is sacred. I learned through long observation that the prison of poverty is not built from coins, but from belief. A man poor in purse may rise swiftly, but a man poor in thought remains trapped even when gold touches his hand. You inherited not the lack of money, but the lack of the laws which create money. This is the true generational burden, not debt, but misunderstanding, not scarcity, but confusion. Yet within this inheritance lies your advantage. For the man who sees his chains sees also the key. You are no longer blind to the patterns that governed those before you. You see the fear they walked with. You see the hesitation that stopped their steps. You see the silence that kept them small. And because you see it, you can break it. Awareness is the first strike of the hammer upon the old lock. Let me reveal to you the principle I call spiritual economy. Nothing in your life has been wasted. Every hardship placed upon your path deposited unseen strength within you. Every disappointment sharpened your judgment. Every moment of fear revealed the areas where faith must grow. Every fall refined your endurance. Spiritual economy wastes nothing. Even your deepest wounds become instruments of your ascent. Infinite intelligence shapes a chosen man not through ease, but through adversity. Ease makes a man soft. Adversity makes a man capable. When life intends to use a man as a pillar for others, it pours weight upon him early. This is why the strongest child often grows under the sternest household, and the wisest adult often rises from the darkest beginning. The universe does not place heavy burdens on the unprepared. It places them on the chosen. Say this quietly within your spirit. I am not cursed by what I carry. I am strengthened by what I was chosen to lift. Repeat it until the truth becomes the marrow of your bones. Repeat it until the fear dissolves and the dignity rises. A chosen man walks differently once he accepts his role. He does not move with the frantic haste of the frightened. He moves with the deliberate calm of the appointed. As you begin to embrace this identity, others will notice even before you speak a word. They will sense steadiness in your presence, a quiet conviction shaping your eyes, a calmness governing your decisions. They will not know why, but they will feel it. A man who understands his calling radiates a dignity that cannot be mimicked. It is the dignity of one who has stopped questioning his worth. When you accept that your struggle is sacred, you stop envying others. You stop fearing the future. You stop resenting your past. You begin to recognize that everything that once felt hostile was actually guiding you toward mastery. You begin to walk as one who belongs to his purpose, and life begins to respect a man the moment he respects his assignment. You were not born into your family by accident. You were not placed upon this earth at this moment by chance. The patterns you see were placed before you so that you could end them. The fears you feel were permitted so you could rise above them. The dreams that burn in you are not imagination. They are instruction. A chosen man is not the one with the lightest path, but the one with the clearest fire. Now you must understand this. Breaking the financial chains of your lineage begins not with money, but with identity. You cannot lift your family if you still see yourself as the one who must be lifted. You cannot lead them if you see yourself as a follower. You cannot instruct them if you remain trapped in the old beliefs they passed to you. Identity must rise before fortune rises. The first step in your transformation is not action, but realization. You must see yourself as the one appointed. You must feel the weight with reverence instead of fear. You must let the burden become your badge. When you do this, you break the first link of the generational chain, the chain of ignorance, the chain of invisibility, the chain of self-doubt. A man cannot correct what he does not acknowledge. And now you acknowledge the truth. Your struggle is proof of your calling. Only once this truth settles can the next stage begin, the rebuilding of the family mind. For what you break cannot remain broken unless you replace it with a new order of thought. The chains of your fathers were forged in misunderstanding. Yours will be broken in awareness. And so we move to the next law, where the mind is renewed, the inheritance reorganized, and the family lifted through the awakening of the one man who finally listened. Part 2. The Law of Renewal, Rebuilding the Family Mind. A man rarely understands that the true inheritance he receives is not land, nor savings, nor wealth, but thought. The thoughts of those who came before him linger like invisible smoke in the rooms of his mind. Their fears whisper through his habits, their doubts breathe through his hesitation, their limitations echo through his decisions, and until he renews the mind, he repeats the past without knowing why he does so. Financial bondage does not travel through coins, it travels through beliefs. A father who fears lack raises a son who expects lack. A mother uncertain of her worth raises a daughter who doubts her own. A household that treats money as mystery produces children who walk softly around opportunity. When a family does not understand the laws of wealth, its members remain loyal to the patterns that keep them small. You are the first to awaken because you are the first to question. You looked at your lineage and felt an ache, a sense that something was wrong, that something was missing, that something must change. That ache is not discomfort, it is revelation. It is the soul warning you that the old well has run dry. It is the spirit urging you to dig elsewhere. Renewal begins with dissatisfaction. Think of the mind as an old well that once held clear water. Over time, leaves, dirt, insects, and decay filled it. The water is still there, but it is hidden beneath layers of neglect. The family mind is the same. The pure principles of truth lie beneath generations of fear, superstition, silence, and surrender. To renew the mind is not to create new truth, but to uncover old truth buried beneath debris. Henry Ford once said that he merely questioned what others accepted. He asked why a machine must work in one way and not another. He asked why a horse must be necessary for motion. He asked why ordinary men should not possess extraordinary tools. It was curiosity, renewal of thought, that gave birth to the engine of progress. And so it is with your financial life. Questioning is the beginning of wealth. Money follows ideas. Ideas follow clarity. Clarity follows renewal. You cannot produce new results with inherited confusion. You cannot rise on the wings of borrowed fear. You must clear the old well and let fresh truth flow again. This is the sacred duty of the chosen man, to rebuild the mind not only for himself, but for all who come after. Every belief must be examined. Every fear must be traced to its origin. Every limitation must be placed under the lamp of reason. If you do not inspect your thoughts, you will live out the desires of those who lived before you, not the destiny created for you. The renewal of the mind is the quiet revolution that frees a family from the chains of yesterday. You cannot break a curse with silence. You cannot break it with hope. You break it with understanding. Understanding turns the key. Understanding dissolves the shadow. Understanding opens the gate to abundance. When a man understands the laws of wealth, order, imagination, service, persistence, saving, decision, he passes from darkness to light. Say within yourself, the habits of my forefathers end with me. New patterns begin through me. Speak it as though you were chiseling the statement into stone. Speak it until the old voice grows faint. Speak it until the new voice grows strong. Identity is shaped by repetition, and repetition is the secret instrument of rebirth. You must rehearse new truth with the same devotion your family rehearsed their fears. They repeated scarcity. You must repeat abundance. They repeated caution. You must repeat courage. They repeated hesitation. You must repeat decision. They rehearsed survival. You must rehearse creation. Renewal is the deliberate act of replacing old echoes with new commands. Observe how others begin to respond to you the moment your mind renews. The anxious expression softens. The hurried movements settle. The restless spirit quiets. Your presence becomes more grounded, more confident, more deliberate. People feel the shift before you explain it. They sense order where there was once confusion. They sense strength where there was once strain. Renewal reveals itself long before wealth arrives. Opportunities that once walked past you unnoticed begin to slow at your door. Ideas you once dismissed now strike you with unusual clarity. Conversations with others feel different. They no longer drain you but inspire you. You begin to speak less from fear and more from power. You act less from doubt and more from instinct. Renewal does not whisper, it transforms. I have watched men remain trapped for decades, not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked a renewed mind. They attempted to build a palace on a foundation of old beliefs. They tried to create new futures without cleansing inherited thought. A renewed mind is the cornerstone of all permanent success. Without it, abundance leaks. With it, abundance flows. Let me tell you something vital. The world does not reward the man who works the hardest. It rewards the man who thinks the clearest. A renewed mind sees opportunity invisible to ordinary eyes. It hears possibility in the faintest whisper. It detects advantage in the smallest event. When you think clearly, wealth becomes a natural consequence. Imagine the future you will create when your mind is no longer burdened by inherited fear. Imagine the decisions you will make when doubt no longer colors your vision. Imagine the wealth that will gather when your inner world supports your outer actions. This is not fantasy. This is the promise of renewal. Renewal demands discipline. You must create time for study, for wealth is first built in thought before it is built in form. You must create time for reflection, for the mind needs silence to grow strong. You must create time for prayer, for the spirit must be fed as faithfully as the body. You must choose companions who elevate your purpose, for association shapes belief. Look to the life of Henry Ford once more. He surrounded himself with thinkers, dreamers, and builders. He kept company with those who expanded his vision. He studied success with the devotion of a student of law. He renewed his mind daily with ideas larger than his circumstances. And because he renewed his mind, he renewed his destiny. Your family did not teach you these laws because they did not have the luxury of learning them. They survived by instinct, not by strategy. They endured without understanding. Their silence was not malice, it was limitation. You must not resent them, you must redeem them. Renewal transforms resentment into purpose. The chains you carry now are not yours. They are relics of unspoken fears passed through generations. But here is the truth. The chains lose their power the moment you see them. Darkness dissolves the moment the lamp is lit. And you are the lamp. You are the flame. You are the renewal long awaited by your lineage. You cannot break the financial curse without first breaking the mental curse. Money obeys thought, and thought obeys identity. Renewal is the reconstruction of belief, desire, imagination, and expectation. Renewal is the resurrection of a lineage once bound to survival. Renewal is the awakening of the chosen man. Study daily, reflect deeply, question boldly, associate wisely, repeat intentionally. These are the tools of renewal. These are the instruments given by infinite intelligence to shape destiny. When you use them, you rewrite your lineage. When you neglect them, you repeat your lineage. Now we prepare for the next stage where renewal gives birth to purpose. For a renewed mind must have direction. And a man chosen to break financial chains must not walk without a covenant, a vow that binds him to destiny. Part 3. The Covenant of Purpose. I have witnessed more lives ruined by drifting than by failure. A failure can be corrected. Drifting cannot, for drifting is the slow surrender of the soul. A man does not lose his destiny in a single day. He leaks it through years of indecision. And nothing binds a man to mediocrity more tightly than the absence of purpose. Purpose is the anchor of destiny, and without it, the strongest mind becomes weak. A man chosen to break the financial chains of his lineage cannot walk without direction. He must not leave his fate to chance, nor his future to moods, nor his fortune to hope. He must forge a covenant, a sacred agreement between himself, his purpose, and the law that governs all achievement. This covenant is not spoken lightly, for once formed it becomes the guiding fire of a man's life. In my 25 years of study, I saw that every man who rose from obscurity to greatness made one defining decision. Not a wish, not a preference, a decision. That decision marked the dividing line between the life behind him and the life ahead. Until that decision was made, his world drifted. After it was made, his world aligned. Dr. Frank Gonzalez understood this. He wanted to build a college for the children of the poor, For years he wished for the funds. He dreamed of them. He imagined them. But nothing changed until he delivered a sermon declaring that he would secure $1 million. The world laughed at him. Yet within days, a benefactor placed the money in his hands. The decision came first. The supply came second. That is the secret most men never learn. A covenant of purpose is not a statement. It is a spiritual contract. When you write your aim clearly, when you read it with conviction, when you recite it daily, you bind your mind to your destiny. Your subconscious accepts the command. Infinite intelligence arranges the conditions. People appear, circumstances shift, opportunities gather, providence steps forward to meet you, but the covenant must be definite. No man can hold two directions in the same hand. Indecision divides the mind, and a divided mind accomplishes nothing. A man cannot rise while arguing with himself. He cannot win while negotiating with fear. He cannot prosper while questioning his own worth. The covenant of purpose strips all contradiction from the soul and leaves a single unbreakable intention. When you write your purpose, you must write it with reverence. You must write it as though you are kneeling before the highest law of life, declaring who you are and what you shall become. This is no ordinary writing. This is consecration. This is the act that separates the chosen from the average, the determined from the drifting, the destined from the defeated. I learned that the man who forms a covenant with his purpose stops moving like one who hopes. He moves like one who knows. His speech changes. His posture changes. His eyes sharpen. His spirit steadies. He becomes calm even in storms. For storms do not frighten a man who walks under divine assignment. He knows the law that governs his success is older than fear. When a man binds himself to a clear purpose, he becomes immune to the noise around him. Complaints do not sway him. Criticism does not slow him. Failure does not defeat him. The world may oppose him, but he cannot be stopped, for he has given his allegiance to a cause greater than temporary discomforts. A man with a covenant becomes more than a man. He becomes a force. Many of your ancestors wished for change. Few decided. They prayed, but they did not plan. They hoped, but they did not declare. They survived, but they did not aim. Their wishes remained suspended in the air, unclaimed and unfulfilled. You must not repeat this pattern. You must do what they could not. Decide with finality. Decision is spiritual electricity. It awakens dormant forces within you. It commands your hidden strength. It ignites the imagination. It sharpens your intelligence. It summons courage from places you did not know existed. A man who decides becomes the master of his destiny, while the man who hesitates becomes the servant of his fears. Write your purpose. Read it aloud. Memorize it. Place it where your eyes cannot avoid it. Let it burn into your mind with such intensity that your doubts cannot breathe in its presence. Read it at night so it shapes your dreams. Read it in the morning so it governs your day. This is what I call faith in motion, the act of treating your purpose as though it were already fulfilled. When your purpose becomes a covenant, the law responds. The law does not respond to wishes. It responds to commands. It does not respond to vague intentions. It responds to definite plans. It does not respond to weak affirmations. It responds to declarations backed by will. If you speak your purpose with authority, the world organizes itself to assist you. Say with conviction, I decide, and law obeys my faith. Speak it not as a man begging for a miracle, but as one commanding the forces that have always been waiting for his certainty. Decision is the signal that awakens your destiny. Decision is the permission slip for abundance. Decision is the first act of mastery. When your purpose is definite, the right people begin to appear. Those who once ignored you now take interest. Those who once doubted you now observe you with caution. Those who once overshadowed you now sense your rise. The decisive man gains a mysterious gravity. Others feel compelled to orbit around him. His certainty becomes the magnet of leadership. A man with a covenant is never alone. Invisible allies gather to his cause. Ideas come when he needs them. Strength arises when he feels weak. Courage appears in moments of doubt. Even obstacles become instruments for his progress. A covenant transforms every event into advancement. But you must understand, a covenant without repetition is weak. A single declaration is not enough to reshape the mind. You must reinforce your purpose daily. Faith is built by repeated suggestion. Will is strengthened by repeated command. Imagination is trained by repeated vision. The covenant must be fed until it becomes instinct. I have seen men form a purpose and then lose it because they did not nourish it. A covenant must be read until it roots. It must be spoken until it lives. It must be guarded until it grows. You are not forming a casual goal. You are forming the spiritual foundation upon which your family's future will rise. Your family line depends on your decisiveness. You are the first to awaken. You must be the first to decide. Their hopes rest upon your clarity. Their fears rest upon your courage. Their future rests upon your purpose. You carry their silent prayers within your covenant. The weight is sacred. And now, as your purpose forms, you prepare for the next law, the structuring of that purpose into practical plans. For a covenant without order cannot hold wealth. A purpose without method cannot gather abundance. You are now ready to learn how God increases the man whose life invites increase. Part 4. The Law of Increase. How order multiplies supply. A man may pray for abundance, but abundance cannot enter a life where disorder reigns. Disorder is the broken gate through which blessings escape. I have seen men with great vision remain empty-handed because their habits contradicted their desires. They asked for rain while holding no vessel. They sought a harvest while preparing no field. The law cannot reward a life that refuses preparation. Wealth does not come to the man who merely desires it. Wealth comes to the man whose life can hold it. There is a spiritual mathematics governing this truth. Increase flows only where order is established. The universe does not place treasure where it will be wasted. It places treasure where it will multiply, and multiplication requires structure. I call this the law of increase, for it governs all growth, whether spiritual, financial, or personal. A tree increases because its roots are orderly. A city prospers because its roads are organized. A business thrives because its accounts are measured. A destiny expands because its mind is disciplined. Increase is the reward of order. The man chosen to break the financial chains of his family must understand that divine supply is waiting, not absent. The limitation is not the generosity of God, but the readiness of the receiver. You cannot draw abundance into a chaotic life. You cannot build wealth upon scattered habits. You cannot expect prosperity to remain when your days have no structure. Look at Andrew Carnegie. His empire was not a miracle of luck. It was a miracle of method. He surrounded himself with specialists, each trained to carry a precise portion of the vision. He employed systems for every operation, plans for every expansion, and order for every goal. His success was not the product of raw ambition. It was the product of ordered ambition. Consider Thomas Edison. His laboratory was not a room filled with scattered tools and frantic experimentation. It was an orderly temple of innovation. Every experiment was recorded. Every idea was placed in sequence. Every attempt was documented. His mind was free to imagine because his environment was disciplined. Disorder suffocates imagination. Order liberates it. Observe John D. Rockefeller. His journals accounted for every transaction, every detail, every movement of his company. He believed that order was the highest form of stewardship, and because he honored order, increase honored him. Wealth gravitates to the man who respects it. Wealth avoids the man who wastes it. Chaos is not a condition. It is a habit, and habits passed down through generations become invisible prisons. If your family lived without structure, if they spent without planning, if they reacted instead of prepared, if they moved without direction, you inherited not their poverty, but their disorder. This is the root of generational scarcity, not lack of money, but lack of method. To break the curse, you must become the first man in your family to create order. Order in thought, order in time, order in labor, order in spending, order in record, order in purpose. You must become the architect of your days, for a man cannot build fortune while his hours slip away like water through open fingers. Understand this clearly. Every act of order is a signal to the universe that you are ready for increase. When you organize your finances, you invite more to manage. When you structure your day, you invite greater responsibility. When you discipline your habits, you invite greater opportunity. When you plan your goals, you invite greater results. Order speaks a language abundance understands. Picture the man who prays for harvest while leaving his fields unplowed. He kneels in earnestness, asking the heavens for grain, yet he makes no space to receive it. Even if the rain fell upon his land, it would yield nothing, for the soil was not prepared. Many men pray with this same contradiction. They desire wealth, but do not prepare for wealth. A man once told me he wished for greater income. I asked to see his records. He had none. I asked to see his plans. He had none. I asked to see his structure. He had none. I told him plainly, "You do not lack money, money lacks you." For money is a servant that refuses to work for a disorganized master. To honor the law of increase, you must become a steward. Stewardship is not merely keeping. Stewardship is expanding. It is the art of taking what you have, however little, and proving you are worthy of more. If you cannot order a single dollar, you will never command 10. If you cannot discipline 10, you will never command 100. If you cannot manage 100, you will never command 1,000. Begin with the smallest act. Record where your money goes. Plan what your money must do. Direct each coin with intention, for money is like a soldier. It obeys command, but where there is no commander, it scatters in confusion, fleeing the battlefield of your pocket. Every dollar must have a duty. Say to yourself, "I bring order and abundance obeys." Repeat it with reverence, for it carries the weight of law. Repeat it until you feel calmness replacing chaos. Repeat it until you sense your life tightening with purpose. Repeat it until discipline becomes natural and waste becomes foreign. Others will see the transformation before they understand it. They will notice punctuality where there was once procrastination. They will see decisiveness where there was once delay. They will hear conviction in your voice where there was once uncertainty. They will trust you with opportunities because discipline commands confidence. Leadership is not granted, it is earned through order. When a man orders his life, others feel safe around him. They sense that his decisions are firm, his actions deliberate, his path steady. They do not fear following such a man, for he has demonstrated mastery over himself, and a man who commands himself can command wealth. The world rewards the orderly man with promotion, trust, responsibility, and influence. Families turn to him for guidance. Employers turn to him for reliability. Partners turn to him for leadership. Even strangers feel drawn to the quiet authority he carries. All of this begins with order. Disorder is the language of scarcity. Order is the language of increase. If you wish to invite divine supply, you must speak the language of increase. You speak it through planning. You speak it through discipline. You speak it through stewardship. You speak it through consistency. Order is not merely a word. It is a declaration to the universe that you are ready for more. Imagine a man praying for rain while holding no vessel. The sky may pour abundance, but he remains thirsty because he prepared nothing to catch it. Many men receive small opportunities, yet lose them because they prepared no structure to support them. Wishes do not attract increase. Readiness does. Every evening, structure your next day. This single act multiplies your power. Every week, record your spending. This single act multiplies your wealth. Every month, revise your plans. This single act sharpens your direction. Every year, renew your purpose. This single act renews your destiny. You are not fighting for wealth alone. You are fighting to rewrite the pattern that kept your lineage enslaved. Disorder passed from father to son, from mother to daughter. Like an invisible thread woven through generations, you must cut it, and the blade that cuts it is order. A life without order invites chaos. A life with order invites increase. When you command your days begin to serve you. When you command your habits begin to strengthen you. When you command your finances begin to multiply. Order is the foundation upon which your family's future will rise. You are preparing a storehouse. You are constructing a vessel. You are shaping a life that can hold what is coming. You are not waiting for increase. Increase is waiting for you. When your structure is ready, provision will arrive with the precision of law. Now you stand at the edge of a greater law. For once order is established, pressure rises to test it. Pressure is not punishment. It is the proving ground of the chosen. You are ready to learn how persistence crowns the man who refuses to yield. Part 5. The trial of pressure. Proving worthiness through persistence. There comes a season in every chosen man's life when the weight he carries begins to press upon him with such force that he believes something must be wrong. Yet nothing is wrong. The pressure you feel is not the sign of collapse. It is the mark of shaping. No gold reaches its final beauty without fire. No sword becomes worthy without hammering. And no man becomes ready for abundance without pressure. Pressure is the divine examination of worthiness. It is the proving ground where destiny measures the strength of a man's resolve. When a man asks for financial increase, he is not handed riches immediately. He is handed pressure to see whether he can be trusted with riches. This is the law no man escapes. Wealth avoids the undisciplined, the faint-hearted, the easily shaken. Only the proven are permitted to hold what others waste. I learned early that obstacles do not appear to halt the chosen man. They appear to certify him. When the path becomes difficult, it is not a warning from heaven. It is an invitation. You stand at the doorway of your next advancement every time life tightens its grip. Those who turn back lose their inheritance. Those who push forward claim their crown. Think of R.U. Darby and his uncle. They dug relentlessly in search of gold. They endured weeks of failure. They persisted through difficulty. But when the pressure rose and the ore seemed absent, they surrendered. They were 3 feet from gold, 3 feet from the greatest discovery of their lives. When they allowed pressure to convince them to quit, their destiny was not stolen by misfortune. It was surrendered through weakness. Pressure reveals a man's true allegiance, whether he serves fear or serves purpose. Under comfort, every man seems brave. Under ease, every man seems confident. But when hardship strikes, when plans unravel, when hopes tremble, when resources thin, and when doubt stands whispering at the door, that is when the chosen man separates himself from the crowd. For while others seek escape, he seeks endurance. Look at F.W. Woolworth. The world mocked his dream of selling goods for 5 and 10 cents. They laughed at his simplicity. They ridiculed his vision. But ridicule only sharpened his persistence. Pressure did not weaken him. It crowned him. And the empire he built became the monument of a man who refused to bow before opinion. Look at Henry Ford. Every failed engine, every broken part, every mocked experiment was pressure testing his faith. Men told him his ideas were foolish, impossible, unworkable. But Ford did not cower before their judgment. Pressure strengthened his certainty. Repeated defeat refined his method, not his belief. And the man who endured what others feared reshaped an entire industry. Pressure is the guardian that stands before every treasure. It asks only one question. Do you truly desire what you claim? A weak man answers with surrender. A drifting man answers with excuses. A chosen man answers with persistence. A chosen man knows that destiny does not hand rewards to the faint. It hands tests to the worthy, and every test is disguised as difficulty. Understand this. Pressure comes not to destroy you, but to prepare you. It prepares your mind for responsibility. It prepares your heart for leadership. It prepares your character for the weight of abundance. If increase arrived before the test, it would collapse you. The pressure you feel today is shaping the vessel you must become tomorrow. Say this with authority. Pressure does not crush me, it crowns me. Repeat it until you feel strength rising beneath your ribs. Repeat it until fear loses its voice. Repeat it until difficulty feels like recognition, not punishment. When a man embraces pressure, he steps into a realm few understand. Others panic, he evaluates. Others fear, he prepares. Others run, he advances. This is why such a man rises above his generation, not because he knows more, but because he endures more. Your family did not fail because they were weak. They failed because they were never taught how to endure pressure. They believed pressure was a sign to retreat, when in truth it was a sign to persist. They mistook the divine test for the devil's trap. They surrendered their fortune because they did not understand the law. You now stand where they once stood, but you hold an advantage they never had: awareness. Awareness turns the test into opportunity. Awareness transforms pressure into instruction. Awareness breaks the pattern that kept your lineage bound. But let me warn you, quitting reactivates the curse. Every time you withdraw, you pass your burden to the next generation. Every surrender becomes their inheritance. Every hesitation becomes their obstacle. Every retreat becomes their chain. Pressure is not only your test, it is the test of your bloodline. When you persist, you free them. When you persist, you rewrite their future. When you persist, you earn the right to receive what those before you could not. Persistence is not merely effort, it is redemption. The chosen man carries himself differently during trials. While others bend beneath weight, he straightens. He does not seek pity. He does not beg for relief. He does not curse the hardship. He understands the sacredness of the struggle. Pressure shapes him. Pressure reveals him. Pressure crowns him. Others will notice this change. They will see the steadiness in your gaze. They will sense the firmness in your decisions. They will feel the calm in your presence. While they tremble, you remain composed. They will not understand it, but they will respect it. And respect is the beginning of leadership. Persistence connects man's effort with divine timing. There are miracles that do not happen until persistence unlocks the gate. There are opportunities that do not reveal themselves until persistence proves your faith. There are blessings that remain sealed until persistence demonstrates you can carry them with dignity. This is why pressure intensifies near breakthrough. The enemy does not fight a man going nowhere. Pressure rises only when victory approaches. The darkest hour is always the hour before dawn, and the heaviest weight is always the weight before the crown. When you feel overwhelmed, do not retreat. That is the moment destiny watches closely. That is the hour that separates the chosen from the forgotten. That is the threshold where most men fall and where one man rises. That one man is you. You have endured storms your ancestors could not. You have carried burdens your peers fear. You have walked paths alone because the chosen man often walks ahead. Your persistence is not ordinary. It is inherited from strength your lineage never discovered. Now you prepare for the next stage, the stewardship of success. For once the test is passed and the crown is given, a new responsibility emerges, not merely to receive wealth, but to govern it with wisdom so that others may rise through your example. Part 6. The Stewardship of Success, Becoming a Channel of Blessing. When a man has endured the trial of pressure and persisted beyond the breaking point, life places upon him a new mantle, a mantle far heavier than the one he wore during his days of struggle. Many imagine that the weight of poverty is the heaviest burden a man can carry, but they are mistaken. Poverty tests a man's endurance. Prosperity tests a man's character. And character is far more precious than coin. The man who rises from scarcity into abundance must understand that wealth does not end the test. It begins a new one. Poverty shapes desire. Pressure shapes strength. But prosperity shapes the soul. The world will tell you that fortune brings ease, but I have seen too many men collapse under the very abundance they once prayed for. It is not hardship that destroys most men, it is success. For success magnifies what already lives within. This is why God does not grant increase lightly. Increase is not given to decorate a life, but to develop it. It is not a trophy, but a trust. The chosen man must see wealth not as something he owns, but as something he governs, an instrument placed in his hands for the elevation of his lineage. To break a financial curse, a man must not only acquire wealth, he must prove he can shepherd it with dignity. Wealth amplifies a man's inner nature. If fear rules him, wealth will deepen his fear. If greed governs him, wealth will intensify his greed. If weakness shapes him, wealth will expose his weakness. But if purpose directs him, wealth becomes a mighty instrument in his hands. If discipline guides him, wealth multiplies his influence. If faith anchors him, wealth expands his reach. Observe the life of Andrew Carnegie. He did not treat wealth as a possession, but as a responsibility. As his riches grew, so did his desire to serve. He built libraries, funded schools, supported institutions, and lifted countless men. He understood the sacredness of stewardship. He knew that wealth must circulate, not stagnate, if it is to bless generations. Consider John D. Rockefeller. He did not wait to become rich before practicing stewardship. He began when he earned only a few coins. He gave faithfully, recorded meticulously, and steered his resources with reverence. His fortune expanded because he honored the law of circulation, the principle that wealth must move with purpose. Money withheld decays. Money directed increases. Money shared with wisdom multiplies. And look at Henry Ford. His wealth did not exist merely to adorn his name. It existed to uplift workers, improve production, and place the miracle of transportation into the hands of ordinary people. He did not bury his riches beneath luxury. He turned them into opportunity. You now stand at the threshold of stewardship. The hardship prepared you. The pressure refined you. The persistence strengthened you. And now success will test you. You must not fear this test, for you are ready. You are chosen. You are prepared to become the channel through which blessings flow into your lineage. Say within yourself, I am a channel, not a reservoir. Through me flows abundance for all. Repeat it until the truth feels carved into your spirit. Repeat it until greed loses its power. Repeat it until pride bows before purpose. Repeat it until you no longer see wealth as personal gain, but as sacred duty. A chosen man must understand that prosperity is never the end of the journey. It is the beginning of influence. Wealth frees your time, but time must be used wisely. Wealth gives you reach, but reach must be used honorably. Wealth expands your options, but options must be weighed with wisdom. When a man becomes prosperous, he must become twice as disciplined, twice as thoughtful, twice as guided by principle. For prosperity tests the soul more severely than poverty ever did. Poverty tests your courage. Prosperity tests your restraint. Poverty tests your hunger. Prosperity tests your humility. Poverty forces you to endure pain. Prosperity demands that you administer power. And power mishandled reshapes destinies for generations. The chosen man must learn the law of circulation, which governs all true wealth. This law teaches that riches held tightly lose their meaning, while riches used wisely gain their strength. A river that stops flowing becomes stagnant. A mind that stops learning becomes dull. And wealth that stops circulating becomes poisonous. Prosperity must move through giving, through investment, through teaching, through uplifting others, or it ceases to be prosperity at all. You must become the financial teacher your family never had. They learned fear. They learned caution. They learned silence around money. You must teach courage. You must teach discipline. You must teach the laws of order. You must teach the power of purpose. You must teach the dignity of service. You must teach the responsibility of increase. Others will begin to look to you for guidance as your wisdom grows. They will ask for counsel. They will observe your decisions. They will notice the peace with which you manage resources. They will feel secure in your presence. A steward does not merely govern wealth. He governs the atmosphere of his home, the structure of his life, the principles of his lineage. Success will give you influence, but influence must be guided by humility. A chosen man does not raise his voice to prove his authority. He raises his standard. He does not boast. He demonstrates. He does not command through fear. He commands through consistency. The family will follow the example they can trust, not the words they hear. Let every action be a lesson. Let every habit be a model. Let every choice be instruction. Your prosperity must be quiet, steady, and principled. Wealth gained without wisdom becomes noise. Wealth governed by wisdom becomes legacy. Let your wealth reflect your character, not conceal your insecurity. Let your prosperity reflect your purpose, not replace it. A man who confuses wealth with identity loses both. You must learn to govern your emotions even more strictly as abundance grows. Greed must be resisted. Impulse must be disciplined. Fear must be silenced. Pride must be humbled. Pity must be balanced with principle. The steward must be firm yet fair, generous yet wise, ambitious yet anchored. These qualities form the armor of the man chosen to break generational poverty. Imagine your household in the years ahead when this stewardship ripens. Imagine your children walking without the fear that shaped your youth. Imagine your siblings learning the laws that lifted you. Imagine nephews, nieces, cousins, and descendants you may never meet being raised under principles you established. Imagine your name becoming a symbol of strength rather than struggle. What greater honor could a man receive? There will be moments when abundance tempts you toward carelessness, times when the ease of prosperity tries to soften your discipline, times when pride whispers that you no longer need the principles that lifted you. These are the dangers that destroy many who rise. But the chosen man remains watchful. He remembers his lineage. He remembers his assignment. He remembers the suffering he overcame. Memory becomes his shield. You do not become a steward because you are perfect. You become a steward because you are faithful. Faithful in small things, faithful in daily habits, faithful in disciplined planning, faithful in serving others, faithful in honoring the laws that elevated you. You govern what you receive, not for your comfort, but for the sake of those who shall inherit your example. You must teach your household that money is not a master, but a servant. It is a tool of creation, a means of expansion, a resource for service. It must not be worshipped nor feared, but understood. When the family learns this, the curse breaks permanently, for the mind becomes free. And now you stand prepared for the most sacred stage of the legacy beyond you. For a man does not truly break the curse until he leaves behind principles that can outlive him, truths that can guide generations, and a pattern of thought that ensures prosperity remains. Part 7. The Covenant Fulfilled. The legacy beyond you. When a man reaches the summits he once feared, when he stands upon the heights that his ancestors could not climb, he discovers a truth that humbles him more than any hardship he endured. The work he has done is not merely for himself. It is for those who shall walk the earth long after his footsteps have faded. A chosen man does not live for his own years. He lives for the centuries shaped by his example. And a financial curse is not broken until the children of his children inherit a mind free from the chains that once held him captive. Legacy is not the wealth you leave in their hands. It is the wealth you leave in their mind. Money disappears. Houses crumble. Enterprises shift. But the laws of thought, the discipline of purpose, the order of faith, the habit of endurance, these are eternal. These are immortal. These are the invisible inheritance that no thief can steal and no fire can burn. I have seen men squander fortunes and rise again because their minds were strong. And I have seen men inherit wealth but lose it because their minds were weak. The true curse of a family is not poverty of coin, but poverty of thought. And the true redemption of a family is not abundance of possessions, but abundance of principle. This is why you were chosen, not to accumulate wealth for yourself, but to plant truth in the soil of your lineage, to rewrite the story your forefathers could not finish, to ensure that long after your body returns to dust, your influence continues guiding the footsteps of those who come after. Think of Abraham Lincoln. He left little wealth behind, but his ideals became the inheritance of a nation. The principles he embodied became a lamp carried by generations. It was not his coins that endured. It was his character. So it must be with you. Your descendants must inherit your strength, not merely your earnings. Think of Thomas Edison. His fortune faded long ago, but his curiosity still breathes in every invention that followed his. His children did not inherit a pile of gold. They inherited a mind trained to question the impossible. They inherited possibility itself. What greater gift could a father bestow? Think of Andrew Carnegie. His name remains not because of the steel he forged, but because of the libraries, the schools, the opportunities he created. He left behind roads for minds to travel. He lifted the world not through riches, but through principle. That is the true heritage of a chosen man. And think of Charles M. Schwab. His optimism, his enthusiasm, his leadership, these lie far beyond the years of his earthly life. Those who worked under him carried fragments of his spirit into their own endeavors. A man's true wealth is the influence he deposits into the hearts of others. That is legacy. You must look upon your own life with the same gravity. The resources you build now are merely instruments. The purpose you embody, that is eternal. A chosen man does not ask, "What shall I leave for them?" He asks, "What shall I awaken in them?" for it is the awakened mind that carries a family forward. Say within yourself, I pass on faith, discipline, and courage. I leave no debt of ignorance behind. Repeat it until it becomes the guiding star of your final years. Repeat it until you understand that legacy is not an event. It is a daily demonstration. Repeat it until every action becomes a message to the future. The children of your lineage may never know your name. They may never see your face. They may never hear your voice, but they will live beneath the shelter of the patterns you establish. They will walk upon a road paved with your sacrifices. They will benefit from victories you won long before they were born. That is the sacredness of legacy. Legacy is not carved in stone. It is carved in character, and the chosen man must begin shaping that character now. Every act of integrity becomes a pillar. Every act of discipline becomes a foundation. Every act of courage becomes a fortress against future storms. Every act of stewardship becomes a shield for generations. Imagine a family once bound by fear, now walking with upright pride because of you. Imagine children growing without the shadow of financial terror, without the confusion that shaped your youth. Imagine grandchildren learning principles that took you decades to grasp, principles they will absorb in their earliest years. This is the reward of the chosen man, not comfort, but continuation. Your lineage will rise because you rose. Your name will become a proverb for strength. Your story will become a quiet lesson whispered by mothers to sons and fathers to daughters. You may think your actions are small, but the future will see them as monumental. Every discipline you practice now becomes a gift to those who will never meet you. You must understand that repetition preserves legacy. The truths you repeat to yourself must be repeated to them. The principles you build your life upon must become the soil in which they plant their dreams. If you do not teach them, the world will teach them something far lesser. If you do not shape their minds, their fears will. If you do not pass on your laws, ignorance will seize the throne once more. This is why you cannot rely on speeches alone. You must live the example. The chosen man teaches not with words, but with his daily conduct. He demonstrates discipline in the morning. He demonstrates courage in difficulty. He demonstrates order in his affairs. He demonstrates faith when others panic. He demonstrates calm when others tremble. The family follows what you embody. Children do not remember instruction. They remember example. They remember the firmness with which you meet adversity. They remember the patience with which you handle pressure. They remember the consistency with which you pursue purpose. They remember the steadiness of your spirit when the world seemed uncertain. These memories become their law. Legacy demands that you write your principles. A man's thoughts vanish if he leaves them unwritten. You must record your truths so that your lineage will know them even if your voice is silent. You must write your beliefs, your lessons, your laws. You must create a record of the wisdom purchased through suffering. This written legacy becomes a compass for generations. Imagine a grandson yet unborn searching for guidance and finding your words. Imagine a great-granddaughter inheriting not confusion, but clarity, because you captured the principles that shaped your rise. Imagine future children reading your reflections and discovering a strength that would have been lost had you kept your wisdom unspoken. Legacy requires writing, but legacy also requires presence. A chosen man must model the laws of thought openly. He must speak success with reverence. He must share the story of his rise so that others understand the price he paid and the principles he practiced. Silence around truth weakens a lineage. Conversation around truth strengthens it. Your home must become a sanctuary of law. Speak of purpose. Speak of decisions. Speak of order. Speak of discipline. Speak of faith. Speak of persistence. Speak of service. Speak of legacy. And speak of the test you passed so they learn that pressure is not the enemy but the path. Let every child who enters your presence feel the dignity of your conduct. Let them see the humility with which you handle abundance. Let them witness the justice with which you treat others. Let them feel the peace in your spirit. Let them experience the strength in your restraint. These impressions will shape their future more powerfully than any inheritance of coins. The chosen man must lift not only his household, but his lineage. He must think not in years, but in generations. He must build not for his lifetime, but for the centuries that follow. He must rise not for his glory, but for the glory of those who shall never know his name. This is the final test, the test of ego. Many men rise only to fall because they believe their rise was for themselves alone. They are mistaken. A chosen man rises for the world that shall follow him. Pride destroys legacy. Humility builds it. You must treat your success not as achievement, but as assignment. You are the bridge between the past and the future. Behind you stand generations who could not cross. Before you stand generations who will cross because of you. This is the sacred privilege of the chosen man. You did not choose this path. This path chose you. You may ask, why me? The answer is simple. Because you listened, because you questioned, because you endured, because you persisted, because you renewed your mind, because you accepted the burden, because you formed the covenant, because you honored the law, because you walked with order, because you embraced pressure, because you proved worthy. The universe does not place such responsibility on the careless. It places it on the willing, and you were willing when others were not. Now hear this final truth. You were chosen not to be served by wealth, but to serve through it. You were chosen to uplift your lineage, and you were chosen to instruct their minds. You were chosen to rewrite their destiny. You were chosen to create a new inheritance built not from fear, but from understanding. You were chosen to stand where your ancestors fell. And because you accepted the calling, the covenant is fulfilled. The curse ends with you. The future begins with you. The legacy lives through you, and generations shall rise because one man, you, finally listened.